There is a hidden agenda behind the LA riots. They are funded, just like the BLM riots were funded, all by the same NGOs. The same NGOs that opened the borders across Europe. What do you think is going to happen when you bring in millions of illegal immigrants with a different belief system, with different values, and mix them together with patriots in a struggling economy? What do you think is going to happen when the media keeps saying on one hand how patriots are oppressive, and on the other hand how immigrants are raising the crime statistics? It will build hatred and resentment between us, and we're falling for it. We must understand the hidden agenda, and that hidden agenda is a digital ID, social credit score, surveillance state. And the only way to bring it in is to keep us divided and create these crises. They own both sides of the conflict and they need us to pick a side. But what if we don't? And what happens when we all become aware of how we're being manipulated? Then this circus will have no choice but to die on its own.
He's talking about the LA riots, saying that pitting two groups against each other, the people that are patriots and the illegal immigrants, and then the left is defending the illegal immigrants. Look at what's going on in Canada with the Muslim population. We talk against it as in, you know what, guys, you have mosques that you can go to and pray. You shouldn't be able to close down streets like Bloor and Yonge, the busiest intersection in Canada, just to pray. I don't get to do that as a Christian. You should be able to go on church's parking lot and basically pray there. That's a show of force, plain and simple. And then you look at Bill C-2. Remember, Bill C-2 is supposed to be about immigration. So they seem to be talking about immigration, but in order to do that, we need to be able to open your mail. We need to be able to restrict transaction above $10,000. We need to be able to spy on you in order to put that in place. And then you talk, as Chris H. was talking about earlier, that Palantir in the US, he's talking about social credit score, which can be implemented using Palantir. In the US, it's more Mexicans that are the enemy, if you will, illegal immigration. Here in Canada, it seems more like Muslims. Is it possible that they're just doing it on purpose and they're just trying to pin each other against one another so that we give them exactly what they want? More control. Because how many people will call the digital ID that the US wants to put in place as the solution to prove who's American and who isn't? But by implementing that, you're basically giving your rights to your government. Everything is now digitalized. What's the next step? No more money. Everything's going to be digital currency. Can you really argue what he said in that video and tell me that those are not massive coincidences if you still don't believe it?
Well, I mean, I think I don't necessarily. I mean, he certainly presented himself well. I think it was, there wasn't a whole lot of facts. It was just sort of opinions and pointing things out, and it was not. It was interesting things he was pointing out for sure. And I think we can definitely and we do sort of have those sorts of disagreements. But I think at the end of the day, the one thing that we all agree on here is, regardless of the intentions, whether it's just terrible policies gone wrong or an agenda, it's wrong and it's bad and we need to stop it. And then that's the most important thing. But I agree, it's an interesting, I think there is certainly agendas going on. When I hear stuff like the social credit score thing, clearly there are people out in the world who want those things. I mean, China has one. A lot of conspiracy theories, the ones that I kind of look a little side-eye at, it's where it's there's always people who are doing evil things, and there's not an obvious point. It's just to be evil, sort of like a cartoon villain.
Control? No, but it's control. It's all about control, bro.
Oh yeah, but it makes sense in a communist government to have a social credit score, because President Xi, for all he knows, he's going to be president for the rest of his life. And it's a dictatorship. They need that control. In a sort of a government like ours, where it's constantly changing, the incentives are not quite the same. I'm not saying that
it's constantly changing. You haven't changed in more than 10 years, bro. Canada, we're on our path to a socialist country. Social credit score, 100%.
Do you think Canada? I don't think Canada's doing anything unique or different in the world. I do think there's forces going on at play in the world right now, and I think it's all over the West. I don't think Canada's in charge or leading the way. Even let's say we agree, for the sake of this argument, that there is this agenda and that they're pushing it for the social credit score and all that stuff. I don't think this is Canadian land. I think we're just going along because it's happening all over the West.
No, absolutely not. So let me put it this way. Mark Carney in his book is literally saying that our financial system should be based on our values as in what we believe in. The value that we put on currency should be based on what that money is meant to do, which should be aligned with our values. This is why he loves climate change, because he's able to blame it for whatever the fuck he wants. And he has said it himself that he wants the financial decisions to be taken with a climate change perspective, to keep that in mind on everything. Just like the woke ideology is not a mistake. It's done on purpose because it gets to change based on whatever the fuck you're feeling. This is the big problem when you look at woke ideology. They took Marxism that was based on haves and have-not, is physical, is something you could hold. Back then it was money. You either had some or you didn't. That's what Karl Marx was talking about. Put more money in the pocket of the people that produce wealth, which are the workers. But that's very communistic. The power always ends up in a very small amount of hands, right? It doesn't matter that it's capitalism, if it's socialism. It's just that in capitalism, technically, you and I have a chance to be that person because we can build ourselves up. In communism, we don't have that chance. It's only the government or the people at the people, that big brother that's in power. But this is where we're going right now. Like over the past 10 years, we have less and less rights. Like look at what happened during the lockdowns. They literally locked and freeze people's bank account because they disagreed with the government. We were not violent. I was there. I was at the convoy. There was no violence there at all. The only violence I saw is when the RCMP showed up. Prior to that, there was no violence whatsoever. So they have shown us that they will shut you down if you don't agree with them. Then they tried to pass Bill B-63, which didn't work. It died because our government was shut down for 5 months. People forget this, but from December 17, 2024 until 3 weeks ago, our government was shut down. Yeah, did that stop Carney getting billions of dollars outside of Parliament? No. So you start reading his book, you start to see what he's doing, you start understanding that that guy was on the board of the WEF. He was a special envoy for the UN. He is a globalist banker with ties to all those organizations to one world government. How do you implement a one world government social credit system that is worldwide? Are we the ones leading it? No. Are we part of the plan? Yes. And you want to know why? We have one of the highest natural resources in the world with super small population. If you had a one world government, imagine that that's the goal, right? As we've talked about multiple times, I'm a sales engineer by trade, so I deconstruct solutions. Tell me what you want, I'll deconstruct it and see if we can put a plan together to reach that. If your plan is to have a one world government, wouldn't you look at Canada as in, there's so much untapped resources? I would argue that we're the number one country in the world with the most untapped natural resources, and we have a government that don't want to exploit it. Is it done on purpose or not? This is the thing. Even if you don't believe in this shit, even if you don't believe that there's a conspiracy, imagine that the goal is to have a one world government. You need a social credit system. It's already been established. China's been using it for years. You know what it is. Palantir in the US, what Trump is trying to push right now, and what Chris H was talking about earlier, is a way to achieve that goal. Now, am I saying that that's the goal? Who knows? Only time will say. But is it that hard to believe that that's the goal when you start looking at everything that's going on? Just Canada, you look at Bill C2 and John Carpay, that is a constitutional lawyer, is like, this bill shouldn't be called the Strong Border Act. It should have been called the Surveillance Act. Why? Because the government is trying to get a bunch of powers that they don't have right now without fucking warrants.